Secretary of Lodi Garden. And we are on to a seminar on Aravalli, Sentinel of Delhi's NCR ecosystem. So I'll first introduce our distinguished panel. We have with us Ashok Lavasa, the former Union Secretary of the Environment, P.K. Tripathi, the former Chief Secretary of Delhi, C.R. Babu, Professor Emeritus, Center for Environmental and Management of Degraded Ecosystems, University of Delhi, Ghazala Shahabuddin, Visiting Professor, Department of Environmental Studies, Ashoka University, C.P. Rajendran, he's there? Yes, he is Professor at the National Institute of Advanced Studies, Bengaluru, and he is joining us online from Bengaluru. Neelam Ahluwalia is on the way. She's coming from Gurgaon, she said, and she's got caught up in a traffic jam. She's the founder member of People for Aravallis. She'll be just joining us. And then we have Prakriti Srivastav, who was in the Forest Indian Forest Service 1990 batch and headed the Forestry Department in Kerala. But she's been very active in here in issues concerning North India. So welcome to you, madam. So before begin, at every meeting we honor our artisans also by presenting the Angavastram to the speakers. And these Angavastrams come from Salem in Tamil Nadu. And they are called Ganga Jamuna. And it is the tehzeeb of pluralism, which we always want to respect. And in today's times, I think pluralism to be repeatedly stressed is critical for this nation's survival. So I will request, I'll place this Angavastram on Ashok Lavasa ji myself, and then ask Abhijit. Abhijit is here? Yeah. We'll do the honors for Shri P.K. Tripathi. And then Lalit, come. These are our members of the Green Circle. And Yogita, can you do it for honors for Ghazala? And also for the Prakriti. Now, it's the 90th anniversary of the garden. That's the trigger for this meeting. And it's, the survival of this garden also is dependent on the officials and the workers who strengthen the foundations of that 90-acre green lung. So we want to honor Jitendra Kaushik, who's been the head of that garden for the past 16 years. And I would request Shri Ashok Lavasa to honor him. What an honor. Just one second, if I can take a photograph. And it's been, sometimes late at night, I have rung him up when I found some disturbance in the garden or early morning. But he always picks up the phone. And once what happened, the civil department was digging up the pathways, and then what they just are not interested in anything apart from their own work. So they disturb the roots of the trees and the plants which come on the way. So it's very bugging, So then he rushes and sorts it out. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So today we can we have that photograph, Shivam? Today, you know, we every year today it was special because it was the 90th anniversary. So we have a kind of a fellowship lunch with all the workers and staff of Lodhi Gardens. There are about 90 of them, 90. So they are all lined up for this photograph. And you see some of us, and we were delighted to have Professor Ashish Nandi with us today morning. And he spoke to some of them, and you know, it was very good. Such a senior gentleman coming and joining us. He's a regular walker also of the garden. Okay. Neelam is here. Neelam, come. Okay. So Yogita, can you do the honor? I mean, we're just starting off. So come, please sit. So we start off with your presentation of the Angavastram tree. You know, sometimes what happens, very innocuous small steps can become catalysts for changing mindsets. Now, that takes us back to the story of the Green Circle of Delhi, which is, to people who have come for the first time, is a voluntary organization as distinct from an NGO, with members, all professionals in different spheres, giving off their free time and resources as a societal contribution to the protection and conservation of the environment of NCT of Delhi. And it all began in 1992 when we adopted Lodhi Garden, the 90-acre green lung of New Delhi, for protection and conservation as a green lung and heritage precinct. So we've been organizing workshops, technical demonstrations, sensitization programs, and campaigns to create a green awareness, and sometimes direct interventions to save green spaces from encroachment. See, once what happened was there was this nursery of the NDMC at near India Gate, you know, and then there was a lobby. It was a lobby from the legal community. They wanted to grab that parking space for Patiala House parking, you know. And there was a committee appointed by the High Court to examine whether it was feasible or not to take away that land, and that would have been the end of that nursery. So then, you know, some associates from NDMC got in touch with us. Then I wrote a letter from the Green Circle to the judge of the Delhi High Court, who later became a Supreme Court judge, Madan Lokur, who was heading that committee, that you know, you should stop this and not do this, you know. Now, they could not have done that what we did, you know. Naturally, as officials, they have protocol and all that. Now, Madan also happened to be my classmate in school and college. I mean, that is a part, but these things do help, you know, sometimes. So anyway, that thing was stopped, you know. So we saved that nursery. So that was the point, that, you know, saving green spaces from encroachment. And then why did we adopt the Lodhi Garden? You know, that's an interesting question. The Lieutenant Governor, I wouldn't like to name him, of Delhi, had suddenly banned dogs, you know, from Lodhi Garden. And this was in the early 90s. And naturally, as pet parents, we were very agitated about this. But soon, fortunately, that Lieutenant Governor's term got over and a new one was appointed. So all the affected pet parents formed a group and marched with their dogs to the new Lieutenant Governor's office and got that anti-dog order reversed. So that small victory eventually led to the founding of the Green Circle of Delhi. Small things, but how it and Abhijit's dad, I mean, who sadly passed away, but he said, no, we must do it, and we must not let this P.K. Chatterjee, was a senior advocate in the Supreme Court. We shouldn't let this go. We should, this doggy party can be enlarged into a tree party, So that's what we did. So we became a platform for green advocacy, and we organized a series of workshops on vermicomposting and on best greening practices to sensitize personnel of civic agencies. Jagmohan Sahab had formed this, you would remember, the green guidelines of 2000 when he was the urban development minister. So it used to be said that he is taking too much care of Delhi, but somebody has to take care of Delhi. I mean, he was the urban development minister of the country, but he was taking a lot of care for Delhi. So these guidelines were not being implemented. So then we called a meeting of all the civic agencies and try to get this implemented. But still, it's a work in progress. Then we also conceptualized the tree ambulance service for the NDMC, which now is functioning in many civic agencies in Delhi, and introduced the butterfly conservatory in Lodi Garden. And that was thanks to Shah Hussain, because when we went to a visit to the biodiversity park in the Aravalli biodiversity park, we saw that there, and we said we should replicate it. And then we took up the issue with the NDMC, and they agreed. And so it was done with your cooperation. We did the thing here, and it's functioning. Then there's the last point I'm making, is that, as the saying goes, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you land among the stars. So we developed a citizens tree census protocol for citizens groups, RWs in schools and colleges of Delhi. We wanted the government agencies to take up the tree census in right earnest, but that did not happen. In fact, P.K. Tripathi ji that time was with Sheila Dixit, you were the principal secretary. So he arranged a meeting for us with the CM. She was very keen, but somehow, down the line, things didn't fructify. But the RWAs took up the tree census in their respective areas. We did one for that Jorbagh we did, and then for there was one in Sarvodaya enclave, but random, and one in the across the river. There's a journalist colony where it was done. But the interesting thing is that and we also did a tree census for Lodi Garden, and we plan to do another one. I in fact spoke to Kaushik ji in the morning today that we must do it in this year if we can, and then publish it. Now the other thing I just wanted to mention, as an offshoot of the Circle's campaign and the support of a top empathetic bureaucrat, and that's Tripathi ji, the empathetic bureaucrat, an order was passed to number all trees in Delhi area. He was with us on a seminar, and we were wanting the census to be done. So he said, let's begin somewhere. So he passed an order that all the trees should be numbered. So this act of numbering all trees has been completed virtually across the city, and has brought about a degree of accountability and has saved many trees from being damaged and cut. So that's the little I wanted to tell about the Green Circle and how it's been interacting. So now coming to this Aravalli thing, which we are mainly going to discuss today. I think it's critical to save the Delhi environment, the ecosystem of Delhi. I mean, I'm not going into the details, but it's a natural barrier against desertification and dust from the Thar Desert. The air quality buffer for Delhi. It provides a green lung. Then the groundwater recharge and hydrological security. It's a biodiversity corridor and climate resolution. And in essence, the Aravallis are a living defense system for Delhi. So it's very critical that we talk about it and we do something about it. Now I'd request Ashok Lavasa ji to open the innings.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. First of all, compliments to Suhas ji and the Green Circle for arranging this program and doing a lot of work. I see that as far as trees are concerned, you started the special intensive revision for trees long back in Lodi Garden. But that's that apart. I find it a little strange that we are celebrating 90 years of their existence and actually the flourishing of Lodi Gardens. And at the same time, we are talking about a mountain range, which is probably one of the oldest landforms in the world. Started formation maybe 300 crores of years ago and continued to form till about 80 crore years back. I don't even want to imagine what all this means. But what has happened during the course of history is that these mountains, Aravallis, residual mountains as they are, they denuded, they degraded, and only the solid rocky formations are there which have survived. I think that's pretty true of human beings as well. The weaker ones wither away fast and the stronger ones survive. But I'm not here in the capacity of an expert to talk about Aravallis, even though I've been Secretary Environment in the Government of India. But I trace my association to the Aravallis, A, because I was born in Rajasthan, B, because I had my primary education in Gujarat, C, because I did my college and worked a lot in Delhi, and D, because I worked in Haryana. I belong to the Haryana cadre, and I've served in districts which form part of the Aravallis. So pretty much all the 4 states where the Aravallis fall, I've been associated with these states. And what I want to do is to share, I don't know how much time I have. Okay, that's more than what I need. Share my experience of a few incidents which I encountered, and also raise a few questions which came to my mind, not only as I witnessed the goings on for the last several years, but also I spent some time going through the 2032-page additional affidavit, which has been filed by the Ministry of Environment on 3rd October 2025. I'll talk about it a little later. But I remember when I used to go to college from Faridabad to Delhi. From Tughlakabad or Badarpur onwards, there would be a series of stone crushers. And you knew that you were entering Delhi because there was a lot of dust and noise that these stone crushers would raise. And of course, then you had the thermal plants spewing smoke and all that. Fortunately, all that has disappeared. But also what has disappeared is, let's say, the Borker Lake, where as a student, we went around the entire water body, walked in about 4.5 hours. Today, you can play cricket in that lake. Take the case of Surajkund. There were two water bodies in Surajkund. One was the Surajkund, the historical structure, which was constructed by Anangpal in, I think, the 11th or 12th century. And as MD tourism, I have seen that kund full of water after the rains. But now you don't have a drop of water in that kund. Adjacent to that is a Peacock Lake, where people used to do boating. And that lake has also pretty much disappeared. And we shouldn't be surprised if someday some imaginative architect and adventurous administration, they decide to do some construction there. And these are all part of Aravallis, and this is what we are witnessing very close to Delhi. Let me tell you something, a third thing. It is not that governments have not made efforts. I think governments have made a lot of efforts. One of them I was associated with as a young Chief Executive Officer of District Rural Development Agency in a district called Bhiwani in Haryana. So as all of you know that the southern western part of Haryana, which borders Rajasthan, there used to be a problem of advancement of the desert, and the government of India started programs like Desert Development Program and Drought Prone Area Development Program to arrest the march of the desert. So there were several components to this program: soil conservation, tree plantation, gully plugging, bunding, contour planning, all these things used to happen. And the popular saying in Haryana was that if you count the number of trees which have been planted under the social forestry program and the space that they require, probably they will be more than the entire geographical region of Haryana. So the politicians would always mock at the efforts of the forest department. So one day I decided to go and see for myself in the hills of Tosham whether this plantation was successful. And to my pleasant surprise, I found that the plantation indeed had taken place and the survival rate was very healthy. The soil conservation work was also quite decent. So I was quite pleased with the work that had gone on. When I was driving, I saw a few trucks coming out of that hill. And in the same hill where the government was undertaking soil conservation and afforestation, the government had given contracts for stone mining. So it was very odd. Anyway, it's a long story, but I decided that it was my duty, even though I was a very young officer, to write to the government that this is inconsistent. So I wrote a letter in 1986. Then I forgot about it. Everyone forgot about it. Essentially, my request was that this lease should be cancelled. But quite surprisingly, 4 years later, in 1990, I happened to become the Director of Industries and hold the charge of Director Mining and Geology. And even then I had not remembered. But one day I found a file on my table bringing the proposal of renewing the lease of that hill, mining lease. And very truthfully, the note recorded that there was an objection to this raised by so-and-so. And at that time, a decision was taken that we will consider this at the time of renewal. So sure enough, we canceled the lease. But I think what I have thought since then, and I continue to think, and what continues to bother me is that why is mining, especially stone and sand mining, which is so critical for construction of all the houses and so much of infrastructure that we require, why is mining associated with a mafia? Is it because governments have not been able to scientifically manage mining, either because of laxity or incompetence or corruption? But somehow, when you talk of mining, you feel that it's a very unregulated, exploitative, avaricious kind of industry. And I think that one of the big real challenges for the administration is how do you regulate legal mining and how do you check illegal mining? It's a real problem. And when you go through the saga of this litigation on the Aravallis particularly, that is the story. People were mining, and either with or without the connivance of government. And then there was a body of people who wanted to check this. So I was talking about this affidavit. This affidavit is very interesting. As I said, it is 2032 pages. There are so many orders of the court. And in every order, you find 15, 20 pages, which only gives the names of lawyers who are representing cases. But anyway, what that 50 or 55 years of history of litigation brings out is, at least I notice, that there is a shift in the stance of the courts, which started off as very staunch protectors of environment. And they would even call out the government for their corruption or complexity. There are so many orders where the Chief Justice or the judges of the Supreme Court and other courts, they have actually condemned the government for their negligence or for their connivance. But gradually you find that there is a shift from being a steadfast protector to being an accommodative adjudicator, which, I mean, if you go through, there are so much of technical detail contained in all this litigation and so many repetitive contestations. Many of them have a lot of merit. And you find that if you want a resolution of this, what do you need? I mean, how will this be resolved? And I felt that probably what is required is a very clear purpose and a clean conscience, so that you are able to reconcile differences and find a modus vivendi in the larger public interest, both from the economic point of view and the ecological point of view. Now, what has happened in the last, let's say, 2 years? When you look at the litigation that has happened and the various orders that have happened, and especially the last order, which created such a big furor. So if you go through that order, there are a few things which stand out. I'm talking of the process. So one thing which I felt was that nowhere did I find an evidence that the suggestions which are eventually made before the Supreme Court, which the court very conveniently accepted, was there any data provided on ground truthing in the sense that if the committee in its wisdom decided to make a recommendation on the definition of Aravallis, if that definition were accepted, then what will be the fate, how much of land mass of this so many million square kilometers will continue to be defined as Aravalli hills and ranges. So that, because I thought that was common sense, that was the way any methodology is worked out and recommended. That if you follow this model, this is what will happen. If you follow another model, this is what will happen. So this is one thing which I did not find. The other interesting thing, and this is frankly a question to my mind, is that gradually you find that all the bodies which are involved, whether it is the Geological Survey of India or Survey of India or Forest Survey of India or the ministry or the state governments or the CEC representatives, there is a remarkable convergence in their approach. And the recommendation on something which is quite ticklish is made unanimously. Whereas, if you go through the 50 years of litigation and reports, people are contesting with each other and giving different perspectives. But somehow there is a very strained alignment in the perspective of everybody. And then this order is passed on the basis of that recommendation. The other thing which I noticed is that, at least I didn't come across in the documents that I went through, there was not too much of evidence of public consultation. Yes, there were committees and committees and committees, but most of them had representatives from within the government systems. There is at least no document to suggest that stakeholders were consulted, in the sense that local inhabitants were consulted, or because their livelihoods depend a lot on that, or outside experts were consulted. Those who don't belong to the government system, they were consulted. That kind of evidence I did not find. Maybe I missed it out. And there was no public hearing by this committee. So I thought that this was the core principle of environment impact assessment, which has been followed by the system, and which the courts have repeatedly asserted that whenever any environment impact assessment is made, public consultation is mandatory. So these are some of the things which came to my mind, and questions actually, that how did we reach this situation? And yet, ironically, it is the public outcry after the November verdict of 2025, which more or less compelled the Supreme Court to take a suo motu review of its order and then pass an order, I think it was 29th of December, where they stayed their earlier order, constituted, or said that a new committee should be constituted, and they have listed very valid issues and concerns. So I'm very happy with that. But I am intrigued that the same court a few weeks ago did not take into account all these valid issues before giving the order that it did. So these are some of the things which are very striking. Now, one last thing that I want to say is that, you know, we are sitting in Delhi. We've seen Mahmood Ghazni and Mohammad Ghori and Abdali and Nadir Shah, and so many people who were attracted by the material wealth of India and who came and plundered it. So how about looking at ourselves as plundering natural wealth of the country in order to achieve economic progress? So I think we need to probably have a more inclusive index it is not that this is something new. The UNCTAD, for example, they have come out with an integrated index where they combine economic progress with the depletion of natural resources. And I would just like to mention something which I read in that report. This is the Dasgupta review on the economics of biodiversity. It found that while produced capital per person doubled between 1972 and 2014, the global stocktake of natural capital per person declined by nearly 40%. So this imbalance, termed as impact inequality, means human demands currently require 1.6 to 1.78 Earths to satisfy current living standards on a sustainable basis. And I was talking of the Inclusive Growth Index, which UNCTAD came out with a report. It's very instructive to read that. Also, essentially what that report says is that the real progress may not be as good or as healthy as the headline numbers suggest. And the other interesting report of 2023 is this Inclusive Wealth Index, which measures a nation's productive base, including natural capital, such as forest, fossil fuels, minerals. And that report highlights that while the global wealth grew by nearly 50% over 3 decades, the world simultaneously depleted. So this is not only about India, this is global, depleted 28% of its natural capital. So when adjusted for this loss and population growth, per capita inclusive wealth actually declined by 5%. So let's not forget that, interestingly, both economy and ecology, they have the same root if you look at their etymology in Greek. Eco means okos, which is home. And nomi is how you manage. And logi, the suffixes are different, is how you account for your home. So I think it is time that we find a balance between these two and understand that one cannot be sacrificed for the other. They have to go hand in hand. And my final observation, when I saw the topic of this, Aravalli as Sentinel of Delhi NCR ecosystem. So I was wondering, why is it that sentinels are either giving way themselves or are being removed? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lavasa, for that overview. We chose this, you in fact mentioned in your presentation that protectors sometimes become accomplices also, in a way. So the sentinel cannot stand up, and then what will happen to the ecosystem? So now I'll request CP Rajendran, professor at the National Institute of Advanced Studies, who's joining us from Bangalore, to go ahead, please. You have 15 minutes, please.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope you can see this. visible to
Yeah,
you?
we can.
Okay, so I just try to go through these slides and briefly discuss about the origin of the ranges, and also is the ecological service that it provides, and why it's important that we need to preserve this. So that's the crux of the talk here. As you can see, the Aravalli mountain range is about 800 kilometers long. I mean, it is uh, abgemorphic feature that's actually, as you have already described, as Sentinel, which is actually, it's a sentinel that safeguard the plains of Indian plains on the eastern side, the Gangetic Plain, including the places like Delhi and other towns, from expanding, extending by stopping the extension of Thar Desert. And also it gives other ecological services, which I'll come to. And it's a very old mountain, as we have already, the previous speaker has already said that. It's a very old mountain chain, as like, the Himalaya. Himalaya is relatively younger mountain chain. And the origin of that is, it's all similar to what all the mountain chains will, tell you how it all originated. It's the beginning of the plate tectonics on the earth, and it's about 3 so early Precambrian period. It's very old mountain chain, and it also preserves the planet's earliest tectonic and evolutionary processes. So you can see, a number of geologists and geophysicists have done a lot of work on this area. And some of this, the snippets been taken from the people who have already published papers on that. And you can see that it's 2.2 to 2.1 billion years ago. It's the beginning of the first tectonic cycle as we know it today. And it's has a lot of stretching. Started with crustal stretching, then it's compression, then it's a lot of volcanism, and even also there's a huge ocean basin sitting there on the western side, and there are a lot of ocean processes that has taken place, which led to the limestone deposition, and that explains why you have a huge deposits of marbles there. And these are all, found out by the geologists, by looking at all this evidence. And this is the first major orogenic structure, maybe globally speaking, too. And after it has become, after a while, there is a second rifting event occurred to its west. That is where we have this Delhi basin originated. So initially just towards the Rajasthan area, then, that has extended towards the Delhi basin. So Delhi basin, the origin is actually is evolution that has happened after what had happened in the Rajasthan side. So this long billion-year-old event, which is culminated in 700 million years ago, that is where we have found out the stretch of geological period. And you can imagine how long that stretch of geological period in where all these processes were active in that area. So this is, as we can see, some of this from the pictures, there was a lot of, there is some, the crater called Ramgarh crater, where you have a meteor impact, which is about 3.5 kilometer diameter. And that's a national geological monument. And you have also, early ancient mining and smelting sites, which has actually provided a lot of evidence for early metallurgy. And you have stromatolites. That is something which is the beginning of the life on the earth. And there are a lot of evidence to say that, we have evidence of stromatolites, which is actually the mats formed by the algae fossils and all that, which is about 2 billion years old. And we also have a park there, which is called Acklewood Fossil Park, where you have 180 million year old wood fossils, which essentially tells you that's the region's ancient climate, which is a lot of forest and all that, coastal forest. And then, as we all know, that it's also very rich in minerals, and including the base metals like lithium, copper, etc. And also we have rich marble, Makrana. The Taj Mahal was actually constructed from the marble brought from this area, which is called the Makrana marble. So this is the key geoheritage sites and the prominent features there. And recently we have found out evidence of a dinosaurian, primitive dinosaurs called phytosaur, and it's an early form of crocodiles near Jaisalmer. And so we have essentially now we have a conflict between the deep time process and also the recent, the anthropogenic threats that has now evolved into a major issue now. As we can see, because of the extensive mining, most of them are illegal mining, and also the extension of the real estate, the construction and all that. So all these things have actually destroyed the ecological balance of the region. So essentially what we are seeing is an anthropogenic threat. See, like the processes are also there, which took millions of years, like erosion, sedimentation, and all that. But now the human activity has now dramatically accelerates this degradation. Now you look at the statistics, it tells you that, humans move 24 times more material than all the rivers combined. That's a kind of acceleration of erosion that we are seeing now because of the human activity. So how do we modulate this? That's the whole question. So the humanity has become a dominant geomorphic force on the planet's surface. So there are, now we are even calling this as an Anthropocene, because of the acceleration of the human activity in changing the geology and geomorphology. So now, following the directions from the Supreme Court, as we all know that there was a elevation filter which is given as 100 meters above the local relief to be considered as a part of Aravalli. So this is essentially, if you look at the literature, see the literature, you see that it's a old Richard Murphy landform classification system, which is actually used for, as a standard for understanding the processes associated with mountains and hills. It's essentially an academic exercises. It's nothing to do with, the land use aspects of it. So this is actually, this classification has become a very convenient for the real estate, so they can use much of these hills. Most of the hills were exempted because of this filter of 100 kilometers. So if you look at the forest survey assessment, only they say that it's about 1,000 out of 12,000 mapped hills in Rajasthan. That is about 8.7%. Meet the 100-meter threshold. So you can see that it leaves about 91% of hills in that state outside the new definition. So the distinction here is like, if you want to have a distinction between hill and mountain in a very academic way of looking at it, we can use the Richard Murphy landform. But here in this case, we are actually looking at these hills and ridges as a ecological entity. So whether this can be used to leave out most of the hills out of essentially using it as avoiding most of the hills as a part of Aravalli range, that will lead to a lot of destruction of the hills. That is the whole problem here. So most of the low hills and ridges will lose their legal protection, which will expose them to rampant sand mining and real estate development. So here, we all know that now look at the statistics and all that. We now understand about 90% of the mapped hill formations will be out of this this classification if you bring in this 100-meter height filter. So there is another issue is also that, most of the 90% of the Aravalli system consists of low-lying ridges in hillocks and lose their legal status as hills under this definition. So going by the Forest Survey assessment, as I've already said that, 80% of the mapped hills will be out of this classification. So here the impact is going to be very severe in Haryana and Delhi NCR region, because most of the low-lying landforms exist in this part, not in the Rajasthan area, where the terrain is lower and fragmented. So this impact is going to be very severe on the Haryana and Delhi NCR region part. So the issue is already clear here. We all know that we have been discussing about this. Excluding the smaller hills, that is heights below 100 meters, ignores their ecological roles, which has got, what the role is about preventing desertification, recharging groundwater, and protecting livelihoods, as we all have been discussing, and we are all aware of that now. So the court's new definition could encourage extensive mining, extensive construction, and commercial activity, increasing the risk of ecological damage. So you have to understand that Aravalli range should be actually categorized in terms of ecological and geological and its climate role. So you can see, this is all given by a recent article by Anup Singh, former Director General of Forest Survey of India. You can see that, if you use a hill height filter, you can see the number of hills. If you give the filter of 100 meters, only 1,048 hills fall under that category. Rest of the other hills are all fall outside this filter. Then the Forest Survey of has actually given a geomorphic definition, which is actually endorsed earlier by Supreme Court. It classifies a slope over 3 degrees as part of the Aravalli. This actually includes most of the hills there. That is what they say. And Anup Singh, the former Director General FCI, also notes that the committee may wish to re-examine the robustness of 3-degree slope criteria, which is adopted by FCI earlier to identify the hills. So as we all know that, if you go by 8% of its geographical area under forest and tree cover in Rajasthan, majority of the hills lies in the Aravalli region, that 8%. So the utmost care needs to, because that's a very limited area. So we need to be extremely careful in bringing, if using this filter, that will essentially put most of the hills outside the safety net. So we have to understand that the Aravalli range is not about mining. It's more about a fundamental question. How do we govern a landscape that is simultaneously geological archive, an ecological corridor, and a hydrological buffer, and an urban boundary for one of the fastest growing regions in India? So it actually requires, we need a paradigm shift, which is required a strategic alignment of geology, ecology, hydrology, urban policy, mineral governance, and technology within a single coherent framework. So I don't want to go through all this. We can see that, what are the roles that Aravalli range play here. You look at geology, then you look at ecology, hydrology, urban policy, mineral governance, all, and the technology, which actually requires modern monitoring tools. As we all know that, we don't even have a proper GIS-based map of the entire region. So we have to generate a lot of data to understand what we are trying to do with this landform. So here you look at the picture, you will see that, it's actually an unregulated, what it shows is an unregulated quarry has changed the relief and forest cover of Aravalli. It's actually a visual given by Rasik Ravindra in his article published in Geography and You. And they have given a number of recommendations. One has to go through this in very seriously. Actually, some of the recommendations they have given is the land use of Aravalli needs a definition. So that is what is required now. So what kind of, it should not be like a Richard Murphy classification. We have to come up with a definition which is based on the role of Aravalli in the land use and land use management, and how is it going to be defined in terms of the land use. Then also, we need to have more data on the mining activities in Aravalli. So then again, they are talking about distinguishing between mining and rock cutting, what are the technicalities involved in it. Then they enforce the management plan for sustainable mining through Ministry of Mines. Then, they say that, we want to shift the custodianship of Aravalli from the Environment Ministry and the Ministry of Mines to another agency, to GSI and to the Ministry of Mines. Then again, they are talking about adoption of global best practice environmentally responsible mining, then layered approach to Aravalli ecosystem. And these are the recommendations that they have given, and one has to go through this very seriously and discuss about it. And most importantly, I think what's the previous speaker also mentioned about that is the effective system of community participation in decision making. That is where we don't hear about public hearing, and we don't hear about the opinion of independent experts on this. It's mostly decided by the committees formed by the government agencies, which actually we can accuse them of conflict of interest. So we are coming to the, as you come to the Delhi, as we know that we call it as Delhi Ridge. It's actually the northern extension of the ancient Aravalli. And we all know that, how do we call that? We call it as green lungs of the capital region. So it's essentially, we are looking at the northernmost leg of Aravalli range. And most of them are low-lying hills. They are not, more than, mostly less than 100 meters or 80 meters. So that filter will actually lead to the sacrifice of most of the region in Delhi, ridge region in Delhi, if you go by that definition. So we all know that, what the kind of ecological services does to the Delhi region. It's an air filter, then you have it's a climate shield, water recharge, urban encroachment. All these is actually act as a sentinel. So if you look at the loss of green cover, the satellite data analysis shows that Delhi has lost 29% of its green cover of its 1992, with old database, 1992 vegetation cover. You can come up with recent data and see how much we have, whether we have improved on this or not. So this is what the earlier database show. We are losing a lot of green cover for Delhi NCR. So I'll come to the last part of it. The 95% of Aravalli in Gurgaon and 95% of Faridabad would actually, if you use the new height-based definition of the hills, 95% of the hills would lose it'd be excluded. So that's a very serious issue. So I think, we need to be fight for this, and it's in terms of its importance, because it's actually provides the last what shall I say, the green lungs for Delhi. We cannot afford to lose it. So it requires the ecological protection, and that is what we need to fight for. So if you go by the repetition of the Rajasthan experience in Delhi, it will, as we know that, the Supreme Court committee in 2018 found 31 out of 218 Aravalli hills had disappeared in last 50 years. So this is going to be the fate of Delhi too. So that is where the Justice, Madan Loko, that time he was in the Supreme Court, and he was exclaimed saying that, who has become Hanuman to remove all these hills. So this is what he said in the court. So this is a very important issue, and I hope we all will, very actively work against this kind of height-based filter that will lead to the destruction of the Delhi reeds there. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a little problem there with one of the recommendations, which were mentioned by you earlier, that they would, that point number 5.
Yeah.
Shift lead custodianship of Aravalli from
Yeah.
MOEF and CC
Yeah.
and FSI to the Ministry of Mines. The Ministry of Mines will want mining.
Yeah, I too have a problem with that. Suhas, I also have a problem with that. I mean, you're right. I mean, I think, that should not go to the Ministry of Mines. I mean, I just gave it as a sort of a window to what people.
The time for academics is there, but I'm not at the right point now. So that should have been scrubbed off. I mean,
Yes, you're right.
Scrubbing.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. That should not go under to the Ministry of Mines, not to GSI. It should be actually gone to a better.
Anyway, the MOEF is being put on the sidelines now, So
True.
If we aid that, then there'll be, what will.
True. I agree with you.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks a lot for that presentation. Thank you very much. Please remain with us so that.
Sure.
Yeah. Can I now request Ghazala to take the floor, please?
Thank you, Suhasji. Thanks a lot for organizing this. I think we all need to, there's so many interesting points coming up. We all need to learn from each other. And, it's really great that you organize this. So I'm an ecologist and, I don't have much knowledge of the laws and policies, but of course, I've been following this particular event and this legal change that has happened. And of course, as ecologists and as, professors of ecology, we really need to do something about this. These days, you don't even feel like teaching ecology because there's just so much change going on all around us. Things are disappearing. Like you visit a particular site one year and then next year you find that, that particular tree or that particular landscape suddenly has a, resort on it or a highway on it. So things, I think, and I think what we are seeing in the newspapers is pretty much the tip of the iceberg. So this is really serious what we're discussing today, but there's just so much going on all over the country that we need to be concerned about. And Aravallis is only a symbol of our growing apathy towards nature and towards ecosystem conservation. So in the context of the Aravallis, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I feel are the key issues with respect to vegetation, flora and fauna, and a little bit about how we came to this situation and what can we do about it really. So I think people have already mentioned the geology, and I think Dr. Rajendran has done a great job of telling us the paleoecology and the geology of this really underrated ecosystem. From my side, I want to talk about the fact that it's everyone's talking about forest cover, but the Aravallis is actually not even just about forest cover. It's a very striking example of open natural ecosystems which have been talked about now for 4 or 5 years. So the whole concept being is that the colonial mindset of just calling treed spaces as forests or any ecosystems worth conserving was really, it has been falsified now. Open natural ecosystems include so-called wastelands, which were open savannas or, scrub areas with very few large trees. So most of the Aravallis actually comes, cannot have more than, as a part of naturally, it doesn't have more than 20 or 30% forest cover. There are areas with very dense cover near the rivers and so on. So even the FSI reports are not really representative of what we are losing when we talk about, this canopy cover that will be, and, as one of the states has come back saying that Haryana has come back and saying that, we need to define forests as anything with 40% cover and above. So I just want to say that we need to re-examine those concepts. The Aravallis also, interestingly, are extremely important for water. Professor Rajendran has already discussed how, these areas have a lot of water sources, a lot of streams. There's high water table in many areas which have very distinct types of vegetation. So the area, of course, has tropical thorn forest scrub, the last few remnants. It has woodland savannas, it has dry deciduous forests, riparian forests. These areas have rainfall from about 300 millimeters to more than 800 millimeters in some places, right? And Vijay Dasmana sitting here is much more of a botany expert, and he knows about the details. But what I have discovered in the Aravallis, over the last few years of working there, I find that there are many interesting open area ecosystems, many interesting forests that nobody is really giving attention to. People are talking about the importance of the low hills and the high hills. This is a really integrated, huge landscape that needs to be looked at in its entirety. There are connections across. And it's not just an ecological corridor either. These are areas with living, independent ecosystems that are sustainable. Just want to mention that there are some endangered bird species and mammal species in this area. It was incredible after the faunal surveys of the Wildlife Institute of India, as well as our own surveys done back, 5-6 years ago. We found species that we never knew could exist in the backyard of a millennium city like Gurgaon. We've got hyenas, we've got rusty spotted cats, jungle cats, caracals, honey badgers. It's just incredible what we have. And most of these are remnant populations. So basically, and of course, leopards. Everyone is familiar with the human leopard conflict that is increasing. Apart from this, we have many bird species that are very specific to open grassland, scrub, thorn forests that do not live in rainforests or in dense forests, right? And these include, you just have to go to a place like Mangarbani or to Aravalli Biodiversity Park in Gurgaon that, you find species like brown-capped pygmy woodpecker that you would never see on the Delhi Ridge because the vegetation is so altered. We need that native expanse of, all of the native trees and their associated plants to harbor these important species like the brown-capped pygmy woodpecker, the yellow-crowned woodpecker. This was a woodpecker that I grew up with in Delhi. You could see it in, on and off. Now it has completely disappeared from Delhi because it appears to like a particular tree, the ronge tree. And that tree is now no longer regenerating. If you go to the ridge, Palash is not regenerating, ronge is not regenerating. There are a few species that are still there, but it's highly, highly diminished. The biodiversity within Delhi is highly diminished. And so when we talk about these laws and these changes that are happening, we need to also look at restoration. We need to look at revival of these systems. Just going ahead and just, digging up the whole place and kind of trying to replant, it's going to be a very complex exercise if we really want to bring back biodiversity, and along with that, all of the ecosystem functions like carbon sequestration and so on. I just want to talk about the Delhi Ridge. All of us have been to Central Ridge, North Delhi Ridge, which is right outside our, the college I used to go to. I have spent many days there, as a student, collecting insects, collecting plants, walking around, watching birds. These areas were really, really interesting. And these have a very interesting history as well. They've been completely deforested by the end of the 19th century, and they have been replanted by the British starting in 1913, 1915. And I was actually part of the first effort to collect all of the material that whatever was published on the Delhi Ridge into a booklet that we published as a part of Kalpavriksha. Today, what you see is a very changed ecosystem, and that was a general, outcome of all of these studies. There's very little regeneration of the native species like Vilaiti kikar, and more recently, Leucina leucocephala. The subabul has taken over because of misguided planting, which has really now spreading all over the ridge. We are losing species like Caparis decidua, Bear, Mitragyna parviflora. We are losing Boswellia, which of course is not found in Delhi at all now. So I just want to make a few general points. Where are we going wrong? I think Ravi Agarwal's paper on the Delhi Ridge and its history shows that the government institutions have definitely not played a very good role in this. They have allowed encroachments from all sides into the Delhi Ridge. And there are parks, hospitals, waste dumps that have been allowed. The major problem that he identifies is the multiplicity of authorities. There are parts under the DDA, parts under the CPWD. Nobody really coordinates their efforts. Actually, I feel like nobody really cares, because I've been to the CPWD office as a student, and it was hard to find people to talk to. They didn't want to see students who were protesting about trees, or who were trying to bring the attention of the authorities to trees that were dying, and who were dying because of cementing or because of highways and so on. So government authorities themselves are flouting rules all the time. And second, there are just too many of these authorities. We don't have a coordinated vision for the Delhi Ridge. We don't have a central objective. What do we really want these for? Are we going to try to combine biodiversity with hydrological, services with recreation? It is possible. Many countries have done it. We need a coordinated approach to look after these kind of areas. And finally, I just want to say that, being such modern cities, Gurgaon, Delhi, Faridabad, and so on, we still don't. I was doing a bit of research for some news report that a journalist had asked me to about this particular problem, and I was doing some research, and I find that in India we do not have any specific legal requirements for keeping any particular percentage of area under green cover. And I might be wrong, and I may not have looked at all the sites. Smart cities has not helped. We still don't have a certain percentage, a requirement that, okay, 10% of the city or 20% of Delhi should be under green cover. So it's all done in a very ad hoc way. People, whoever comes, a very individualistic kind of a governance, when there is an interested officer, we manage to do a lot, but if there's nobody interested. The second thing is that there are no strictures on the kind of restoration that's going to happen. People are just taking up restoration. The CPW, today I saw an advertisement forwarded by one of the ecologists in Delhi, saying that contracts are being invited from ex-forest officers to do tree planting on the ridge. Now that sounds like very ad hoc. We don't really have a plan. We are bringing in people, and then there's no public hearing. So it's going to just be like the old, the way it has happened before. Okay. The second thing is, this Lodi Gardens, anniversary made me think, what is it about Lodi Gardens that makes it so attractive to all of us? I still come from Noida, sometimes just to walk in Lodi Gardens. So what is it about Lodi Gardens that was done so well? What is it about the trees, about the recreational areas, about the shade, about the way, the freedom that you feel inside Lodi Gardens? Can we not do more of those? It doesn't always have to be a forest, but can we make more of such kinds of recreation areas, not just in Lutyens, Delhi, but in all the new areas of Delhi NCR that are coming up at a very rapid pace without enough attention to greenery. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ghazala. I agree with you. I mean, we are dancing at whims and fancies of a particular person who thinks he's in control, or was in control, or wants to be in control. So you have this crazy idea of sandalwood tree plantations in Delhi. I mean, can you just imagine sandalwood being put here? But somebody has this newfangled idea. He put sandalwood trees here. I mean, there has to be a limit to some kind of crazy stuff going on. And then public money is being spent. Now you import tulips, and they come from Scandinavia. I mean, they may be looking good, but they don't fit into our system, But you have tulips. Now, tulip garden, I mean, I'm not telling you because you have to work under orders. But I'm just saying, it's terrible, this kind of newfangled. I mean, you have motia, or something which is so germane to our nativity, but it's not that. You have this. I mean, somebody comes from somewhere, brings in something. I mean, so anyway, So I thank you very much for putting it. I mean, we have to put somehow a end to all this. I don't know how it can be done, but it has to be done. Now, can I request CR Babu to come in? You can use the mic there. You'll feel more comfortable, I know, while standing and talking. Yeah.
Are you hearing me now? All right, okay. Let me thank Dean Circle of Delhi and Dr. Suhas Borker for inviting me to participate in today's seminar on Aravallis, the Sentinel of Delhi NCR ecosystem, which is being organized as a part of 90th anniversary of Lodi Gardens. The title of my presentation is, very brief presentation, is Aravalli mountain ranges and their ecosystems. Now, before I, go in, my presentation is in two parts. The first part deals with the facts and figures on the physio-geographical information on the Aravallis. And the second part deals with the how to deal with the ecological restoration of these highly degraded mountains. I would say some of the mountain ranges are nearly dead and some are highly degraded. They are in various states of degradation in a true sense. Now, I just want to tell you what constitutes Aravallis and how one can delimit Aravallis for their sustainable development are questions of paramount importance for their conservation. This is a very, very important one. And I just give you a map. All those brown areas are the Aravallis, and the rest of the things are other different aspects of it. And as Rajendran has pointed out, that Aravalli mountain ranges are perhaps one of the world's oldest mountain ranges and is probably 3.2 billion years old, which he has also mentioned. It's a slight variation in the figure, 3.2 billion years old. Now, the ranges extend from southwest in Gujarat to northeast in Delhi, through Rajasthan and Haryana, covering a distance of 672 to 692 kilometers, with a large part of the range located in Rajasthan. Now, our Rajendran has given 860 kilometers. These variations exist depending upon the way that you measure it and the methodology that you do it, and there's a minor variation. Now, as far as the width of the Aravalli mountain ranges are concerned, the width of the Aravallis range from 10 kilometers to 100 kilometers, with an average width of about 40 kilometers. And you may ask me about the elevations. The average elevations, I'm using the word average elevations, a range in the form of range, 300 to 900 meters. The reason is there are a number of peaks, and these peaks are very difficult. So somebody has studied a set of the peaks and calculated the height. Another one has selected another set of it and calculated. So the range of elevation, the average range of elevation in the Aravallis varies from 300 to 900 meters, with many ridges and residual hills clustering around 600 to 700 meters. This is the variation in the elevation of the Aravalli mountain ranges. All right, based upon the distribution pattern of the Aravallis areas are broadly defined into three groups. The central Aravallis, represented by Rajasthan range, and the southern Aravallis, represented by Gujarat range, and then the northern Aravallis, which are represented by Haryana and Delhi ranges. Now, one of the characteristic features of the central Aravallis, that is Rajasthan Hills. The Rajasthan Hills have many what you call mountain ranges with peaks ranging from 1,000 to 172 meters above the mean sea level. And then you have also a very interesting observation. That is, the maximum width of the Aravallis is attained in Rajasthan, that is 100 kilometers width. And then a large part of the Aravallis are strictly restricted to Rajasthan. Then what happens to the southern, what you call Aravallis, that is in Gujarat? The Aravallis are tapered into the southern extension as well as the northern extension. And so therefore, in Gujarat, you have Aravallis mostly of low hills and residual outliers. Now, in the case of northern Aravallis, you have Haryana range, which has a moderate elevation, moderate width, and also moderate length of the Aravallis. But when you come down to Delhi, the Delhi Aravallis have been tapered to low hills and residual hills. These are the general features of the Aravallis. Now, I also want to tell you that the Aravalli range, I have seen myself, I don't have the photograph to show you. In some stretches, the Aravallis have been dwarfed drastically. Dwarfed means become short from the high elevation to. And in some areas, particularly in Haryana, I must tell you, I agree with our former secretary that the Aravallis have been flattened to the ground level, all due to mining, and also highly degraded in other what you call ranges of Aravallis. You may ask me, what are the major factors that contributed to the massive degradation of Aravallis all across the what you call their distribution? One is the deforestation. The second is mining. Maybe if you ask me, mining would be the first and deforestation would be the second. And third is intensive, highly intensive livestock grazing. If you go to Udaipur, you don't find a single grass blade on the hills. You have just simply denuded hill ranges extending from one end to the other end of Udaipur. And then you have also encroachments, as in Delhi, as many people have told. These are the major, what you call, threats to the Aravallis. And what I want to say is, in addition to the geographical features which I just mentioned, if you want to really give a correct picture about what constitutes Aravalli, you need a carbon dating of the what you call rock samples collected from different hill ranges. The second is you need the type of rock formation. The type of rock formation also would tell you to a large extent what constitutes Aravallis. And then third is the mineralogy of the rocks. This is very, very, very critical. Ravindran has also pointed out that all these three parameters we actually strengthen along with the other what you call aspects taken together. If you cluster them, you will find out what constitutes Aravallis and how we can deal with this Aravallis. Now, this is my first part of the story. My second part of the story is no, the point is, what are the, I've forgotten to tell you, what are the major ecological functions of the Aravallis? The first major function, ecological function of Aravallis, recharging the aquifer system in the semi-arid regions, which is very, very, very critical, right? The second is that it, what you call, prevents the movement of dry air from the western side to the eastern side, where moist air prevails and which actually prevents the spread of what you call desert towards the Gangetic plains. This is the second major ecological function. Now, if you remove the vegetation on the eastern side, it will be just like on the western side. So this aspect must be taken into account when we think of conserving the Aravallis. The third important thing is it serves as a barrier, is a physical barrier, right, for preventing the dust storms as well as the, what you call, heat waves coming from the Thar desert. And if that happens, our entire, what you call, productive Gangetic plains would become deserts. And in Delhi, probably you find it dramatic changes in the, what you call, climatic patterns. Now, I will come down to this. Now, what should we do with this degraded Aravalli ecosystems across the entire range from Gujarat to Delhi? With the help of the grant from the Delhi Development Authority, we successfully restored 692 acres of mined out areas located in Vasant Vihar, Vasant Kunj, JNU, and Mayapal area into a diverse natural ecosystems that are found in the Aravallis. Now, I must also tell you, and these restored natural ecosystems form the, what you constitute the Aravalli Biodiversity Park. As Borker has told that many of you are planning to visit Aravalli Biodiversity Park on 19th, so you are most welcome, and you can see yourself what we have done in the last 20 years to bring back the, what you call, lost natural ecosystems on the Delhi Ridge. Now, let me tell you, the area that we have selected is South Central Ridge, the South Central Ridge of the Aravallis, and it has 85% more mined out pits, and the rest is covered with a bushy prosopis juniflora, and such landscapes we brought back to what you call to the natural forest ecosystems. Now, these restored forest ecosystems have been rendering a wide range of what you call ecosystem services worth of several millions of rupees. In fact, recently we carried out the economic valuation of 2 lakhs of trees in Aravalli, and the paper was published, and we estimated the amount of carbon stored in these 2 lakhs of trees, the amount of carbon sequestered annually in these trees, and also what you call, we estimated the amount of water that infiltrates into the groundwater, and then we also found out how much amount of pollutants are removed by these trees. And then we also found out how much amount of AQI can be reduced by this canopy. And I'm not going to give all your details, but I will show you a few pictures, and you can see here, this is the overview of the, what you call, restored Aravalli forest ecosystems. Now, I also want to tell you, we brought back all the tropical moist deciduous, tropical dry deciduous, tropical mixed dry deciduous forest, and grasslands, tropical thorn forest, and grasslands into the restored ecosystems of what you call Aravalli Biosphere Park. Next, please. You can see this is also another view of the overview of the Aravalli Biosphere Park. Next, please. Now you can see on the left-hand side is the what you call before restoration. Now this is after restoration. It is probably the tropical moist deciduous forest. Next, please. And this is the, you can see the barren area and the restored ecosystem. Let me tell you, the top canopy has reached to height of about 50 feet. And then you have a middle story, and then you have an herbaceous cover. And this is the tropical dry deciduous forest. Next, please. And this is tropical thorn forest. Next, please. This is probably another, you can see before restoration and after restoration. Next, please. And this is the tropical, this is the tropical thorn forest. Next, please. And this is the grassland. Next, please. And this is one of the, what you call, barren areas converted into a forest. You can see the height of the trees and the canopies that they have already attained. Next, please. And I must tell you that many birds, when we counted the birds initially, it was about 35 to 40 species. But today, I think you will have more than 200 bird species. Now, some of these bird species, let me tell you, were sighted about 50 to 100 years ago. I've shown you 4 birds, and these 4 birds were sighted about 50 to 100 years ago at Aravalli. But today, they've made Aravalli Biosphere Park as a home because the habitat is very, 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 what you call, promoting for the, what you call, or is attracting these rare birds. Next, please. What I want to say at the end is, Aravalli Biosphere Park can be used as a model for replication all along the Aravalli mountain ranges for their ecological restoration. This is all what I want to say.
Thank you. As usual. I'm quite a fan of yours. So thank you. Yeah. Now, I just wanted to, in fact, he's jumped the gun. So I in fact want to circulate this. We are planning a visit as a follow-up to today's meeting, a visit to the Aravalli Biodiversity Park on the 19th of April. And the only thing is that we have limited places for that visit. No, that's okay. We will pass the thing. And then Shah Hussain is going to lead that. He's here. He's the director of that park. And we have requested Professor Babu also to join because, because he comes there. I mean, he's the father of all the biodiversity parks. So it helps, I mean, there's a kind of ecosystem made within that aura, which helps us to get enthused. So I'll pass this. You be the first to sign in. Yeah. Okay. And then, yeah. So that was one thing. And the second thing is, before anybody wants to leave now, just pick up a sapling and go. Don't leave without the sapling. The saplings have been gifted by NDMC for this 90th anniversary of the garden. So please pick us the sapling and go. Now I would request Neelam Ahluwalia, the founder member of the People for Aravallis, to take the, thank you very much for coming. You're not too well, but still you have made it. I mean, that's a good fighting spirit you have shown. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just bear with me a little. I haven't been feeling too well today. Big salute to Mr. C.R. Babu, my friends Vijay and Dr. Fayaz here. I'm a big fan of your work. I started my journey with the Aravallis, actually volunteering for the Aravalli Biodiversity Park in Gurgaon, which is 400 acres of beautifully rewilded space, just like the Delhi counterpart have. My kids have grown up in this Gurgaon space. We used to go for planting, and I work with rural communities now across the 700-kilometer Aravalli range. The range is extremely threatened, we all know. The previous speakers have spoken about the importance of the Aravallis. I want to show you today what is actually happening across the range, and the impact that we're talking about, that nobody's listening to the people and lack of community participation. So I want to bring those facets in. Can somebody start my presentation? Yeah, next please. Yeah, how can I just go to the... Okay. Sorry, I've always been a field person. This presentation has been made by a teammate of mine. So yeah, we can just see the Aravalli range, which actually starts in Gujarat, and it completely crisscrosses the entire Northwest India. And you can see how on the left side is the Thar Desert, and the eastern Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, NCR, Haryana, Punjab above that is what the entire range protects. Next, please. Okay, so this is a submission that we've made to the Supreme Court in January as well. This is something which has been made by very senior GIS experts who we work with. If you see the red spots, you just saw the entire Aravalli range, and the red spots is what denotes the mining that is going on in the Aravalli range. So it is across the range. You can see a little bit of that in Gujarat, and then the entire yellow is Rajasthan, and the purple in the map is where Haryana is. Now there is nothing which is left. This map has been made based on, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. There was a 2018 Supreme Court study which denoted a lot of illegal mining sites across Rajasthan, and then we have traveled to each and every Aravalli district, and where there is mining happening, both so-called legal and illegal, and this map is a result of that data. Next, please. So this study actually shows that a lot of the mining actually corresponds with areas where there is vegetation, all kinds of vegetation that ecologists before me have pointed out. Next, please. This map actually shows that there is a lot of mining happening in the high value habitat classes, which are habitats of threatened species, habitats of endemic species. So there is really a question on, what we allow and what we don't allow. Next, please. Okay, so talking about the different Aravalli straits, these are some shocking ground truths from the state of Haryana, which is right next to us. 2 out of 7 districts in the Aravallis in Haryana, the existence of the Aravallis has been wiped out. The left image is Charkhi Dadri and the right is Bhiwani district. Licensed mining, and this is, we're not even talking illegal mining, this is licensed mining operations over the last 10-15 years. Every hill in Charkhi Dadri district was given for mining in 2015, other than one hill which has an Aravalli plantation project on it. I was completely shocked in 2024 when I went on a ground truthing exercise with the Haryana government officials, and we went to each and every Aravalli district. I was part of an NGT case on illegal mining happening in Gurgaon, Nuh, and Faridabad. And then the NGT actually wanted restoration across the entire state of Haryana. And I went with the government officials to every district. And that's when I came to know that in Bhiwani and Charkhi Dadri, this is what every Aravalli hill looks like. So, we're talking about desertification, we're talking about, water security, and this is the ground reality of the hills. This was a report that we gave as part of People for Aravallis last year to the Ministry of Environment, to the Haryana government. As usual, nothing really happened of it. So we actually filed in the Supreme Court earlier this year. Next slide, please. This is Mahendragarh district, where there are still very beautiful areas of the Aravallis, but the ground situation is that the water level is at 1,500 to 2,000 feet. Let that sink in. It costs lakhs and lakhs of rupees to the farmers to actually dig to find water, and they dig and then they don't find it. They don't have the money to dig again. So farming is becoming unviable. There's licensed as well as illegal mining and stone crushing that is going on in Mahendragarh district as we are talking. There's a village called Rajavas in Mahendragarh district, where the entire village actually gave their 500 hectares to come in protected forest as part of the so-called Nicobar swab, and for afforesting in the Aravallis, for actually destroying I don't know, whatever that number is in Nicobar Island. And 24% of this protected forest was auctioned off for mining on the same day that the forest department said that this 500 hectares will be protected forest. So even protected forest, where you're actually protecting in lieu of lakhs of trees that you are cutting in another ecosystem, is not actually protected. So there is nothing sacred when it comes to giving off and opening the Aravallis to mining. So anyways, this is the villagers are fighting this in the NGT, and there is a temporary stay on this as of now. Our next hearing is in April, so let's see what happens. Next, please. Gurgaon, Nuh and Faridabad mining was banned in 2002 and then 2009 eventually, but these are the scars of licensed mining in Gurgaon, Nuh and Faridabad, right next to Delhi NCR. Mewat is what Nuh district is, but illegal mining still goes on. In 2022, we filed a case in NGT showing 16 locations of illegal mining in Gurgaon and Nuh, sand and stone both. The government admitted to illegal mining in 40 plus locations, and anti-task force committees were formed, and there's a number now where you can call and report on illegal mining across Haryana. So next, please. So this is talking about mining is, of course, one of the biggest threats, and so is real estate development and encroachments. But waste dumping and burning in the Aravallis is another very big issue, because it is leading to poisoning our aquifers like big time. There is this Banwadi landfill in the middle of, in the Aravallis between Gurgaon and Faridabad, and waste from, if you see the picture on the extreme right, that is waste actually dumped from the Banwadi landfill into the old stone quarries. Now, these are typically your recharge zones. And we got this waste tested by the Center for Science and Environment, and they actually said that it was really toxic in like a lot of metals that that shouldn't be going into these eco-sensitive areas. The picture on the left is another landfill that's coming up in Sona Aravallis, and this is what it looks like every day. There is waste, mixed waste that is burnt, which has all kinds of toxins in it. So we're talking about the ability of the Aravallis to be our green lungs. Now, how can they actually be our green lungs when they are being poisoned like this? And this is right next to Delhi. The picture on the extreme left is this is actually covered by a lot of packets that you're seeing, but this is industrial waste, toxic industrial waste from Bhiwani, which is got into these areas in Nuh Aravallis, and it is just burnt over there, and then the stuff that comes out of it, which is just like put into, and these are like our water recharge zones. So and this is just going, like there's a lot of wildlife that just gets, killed on an everyday basis, and people have been getting all kinds of diseases. So just wanted to bring that out. Next, please. Okay, so coming to, that was Haryana, the Aravalli status in Rajasthan, where 80% of the Aravallis exist. This picture has been taken by a journalist and shared with us. This is from the Bharatpur area. So it's just the border, between Nu and Rajasthan. And this picture almost looks like as if, we are on Mars or the moon or something, it's just, and this is how a majority of the range looks like. Next, please. So the story is of aquifer systems breached wherever there is mining happening. I have now visited most of the mining sites and most of the Aravallis across the range, 692 kilometers. And every so-called licensed mining site, this is what it looks like, where the groundwater has been breached. It is completely against the law, but it happens throughout the range. On the left-hand side, this is from Jhunjhunu district. On the right-hand side, on the top is Beawar in middle Rajasthan, and on the right, Khanmin, this is Dungarpur district in South Rajasthan. But this is how the entire range looks like. I mean, you are destroying your only critical water recharge zone throughout Northwest India. So I don't know how millions of people here are going to survive. Next, please. Now, we're talking about Aravalli Hills and the height of the Aravalli Hills. I wanted to just show these images. Wherever there is mining happening, the waste from the mining is just recklessly dumped in all our natural ecosystems. On the left, that Talai is where Ratsaman district is, and marble mining is happening, and more than green, the hills look white. On the right-hand side, on the top is Udaipur district. On the extreme right-hand side, lower right-hand side, is this place called Paldeval. If you can see, all these rocks, they have actually been dumped on a water stream. So downstream of this water stream, the farmers are not getting any water. And this is common. This is just representative across the range, where the stones that are dug out are just dumped anywhere on water streams, in forest areas, jahan man karta hai. Right, and next, please. So this is how the Aravallis look in Gujarat from where they start. In every district where the Aravallis exist, there is mining happening, both legal, illegal. In the name of licensed mining, there is a lot of illegal mining happening across the range. Whether it is breaching of groundwater level, whether it is a certain area, you may be given, say, 10 hectares for mining, you will mine in 20 hectares or 30 hectares around that. And who's watching? There's nobody watching. Next, please. So this is mining in the Aravallis knows no boundaries. It's intruding into human settlements. It's next, please. Farmlands, forests, orans, rivers. There is you speak it and it's there. This is I tried to capture this image in Peopledara in Udaipur district on the left-hand side, where the mining is happening barely a few meters from the village. And now this is common across the range. This Tajpur is East Rajasthan in Savai Madhopur. So you can just about imagine the condition of the people who are living across the Aravalli belt. Next, please. So there is mining and stone crushing activities happening next to agricultural fields. The images are representative. Indargarh is in the east of Rajasthan near Bundi. Here mining is happening right next to a forest area. Now these are just some representative images, but this is happening across the range. There's stone crushing happening right next to agricultural fields. Next, please. These are examples of mining happening inside Orans, community forests that people have, saved and protected over eons. This Nimod is in Sikar district, and so is this Neemkathana area in Sikar district. The story of the image on the right is actually very interesting because the locals feel that this is 500 hectares of a beautiful Oran, which is right next to the banks of the only river which is actually existing in this area. And the contractor apparently tried to mine 2 or 3 times, but every time he suffered losses. And the people believe that it was, the sacred Baba who was protecting, and then the contractor finally left. So, but these are remnants of, the mining that happened. You can see the river in the background. You can see on the left-hand side in that image, back please, where, they again were mining here, and, the villagers hugely protested, and, that's how they've left this. This is just right adjoining a sacred forest in Bharala village in Neemkathana. Next, please. Okay, next, please. Okay, so this is how, we are talking, when we talk about, this is a drone capture that has been done in Kotputli district. Now, there was a study a couple of years back which said that because of the Aravalli destruction and the hills being razed to the ground, there have been 12 identified breaches in the entire Aravalli range, starting from Ajmer in South Rajasthan to Jhunjhunu in North Rajasthan and Mahendragarh in South Haryana. And that is from where the dust storms and the desert is advancing towards eastern Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Delhi, NCR. That's because the hills that are actually which form a barrier have been raised. Now, when we talk about restoration, unfortunately, we can bring back a forest, but we cannot bring back the hills. Once the hill goes, the entire natural ecosystem goes, and along with it, the forest, the rivers and the streams that come out of that hill, the aquifers that lie beneath the hill, the cattle grazing grounds for the communities, everything goes. Next, please. This is from Charki Dadri in Haryana. Now, there was a study which said that more than 360,000 hectares of land in Haryana is facing desertification. Now, that is directly impacting our food and water security. That's 8% of Haryana's land. And mining is a very big cause of that. Next, please. So this is a reality across the Aravalli range. Groundwater, which was earlier available at 30 feet, 60 feet, 100 feet, is now over the last 30, 40 years has plummeted to 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet at many places. The image on the left-hand side is from Ramalbas village in Charki Dadri, where there was licensed mining going on, and then they breached the groundwater level, and the wells of the farmers all around, they dried up. And the villagers actually had to sit on a dharna for 2 months, boycott elections in 2024, the Haryana Assembly elections, and then the government actually heard them and stopped the mining. But this is the reality. So, like people are, this landscape is on fire because there are these small andolans happening everywhere because so-called licensed mining is not is breaching all kinds of rules. The image from the right-hand side is in Jhunjhunu district, where again, for the last, this is just the result of the last 3-4 years of licensed mining, and this is going to go on for the next 50 years. So can you even imagine how deep they are going to go? Next, please. This is on the right-hand side, what was once a Kasavati river, which has been reduced to a polluted nala now. Thanks to all of these stone crushing units that you see on the left, which have been in the wisdom of the government, they decide to make all of these stone crushing units on the Bahav Kshetra of the Kasavati river. And this is what it looks like now. We got the river water tested, and it is high in all kinds of pollutants, from ammonia to, you name it, and it's there. And this is what like how are the people supposed to sustain, who are living around in these areas whose main occupation is small scale agriculture? Next, please. So next we come to agriculture and food security. The image on the left hand side, the image actually in the middle, that's a stone crusher right on the state highway from Sikar district to Kotputli. This image on the left hand side where you can see something white on the farmer's hand is the dust from that stone crusher on his crop, which is now in the process of being cut. And on the right hand side, that is how the land looks like. It's all white. So your mining and stone crushing, A, mining is leading to surface water bodies being destroyed, B, the groundwater level plummeting. Second, the stone crushing is resulting in 1 inch of dust on the farmers' crops. So the agricultural productivity across the Aravalli range has plummeted to like 40 to 50% of what it was. So traditional livelihoods have been impacted in a big way. Next, please. Cattle grazing, as the hills go, the cattle grazing areas go. So these are the two main occupations of the people living across the Aravalli belt. They are cattle herders. They are small scale farmers. They are not like your big farmers found in Uttar Pradesh or even in Haryana or in Punjab. They are all sustenance farmers, and as a backup, they sell their milk and whatever. Now all of this dust laden vegetation is what the cattle is eating. So very often the people say ki when they are pregnant, unka bachcha gir jata in the 4th or 5th month. So it's a very, very terrible situation on ground. Next, please. So that person, on the topmost image is stone crushing, and on the bottom image is blasting happening. This actually happened in front of me in Mahava village in Sikar district, where a very close core teammate of ours lives in Mahava, and this is what they live with every day. This person, you can see on his roof, he's collecting the dust that comes from the stone crushers every day. Next, please. So this is the condition of the mine workers who are working in the mines. There are no safety precautions. There are no masks. There is no, what they call wet hole drilling. And because the result of this is, most of them getting silicosis by the age of 40. And then the family has no other alternative but to actually send the son who is 15 years old into mining. So it's just this vicious cycle. Next, please. So these are all people, whether it be COPD or tuberculosis, silicosis, which are fatal lung diseases, to kidney diseases, to liver diseases, to skin diseases, you name it, and the people living in the Aravallis across the mountain range have it. Next, please. This is a lady who was showing me cracks that have developed in her house. This is in Kotputli district in North Rajasthan. And this is Pawana Heat on the right, which is again Kotputli district. So because the mining is happening so close to homes, this is a constant thing that people live with. Their homes break. And then they have to build them again. And these are all like really poor farmers we're talking about. Next, please. Okay, so I'm not going to go much into talking about, I wanted to show you that even before this 100-meter definition came, which the Supreme Court accepted on 20th of November, in which there is a stay now, that this is the ground reality of the Aravallis. There is already a lot of mining happening. There is no full damage assessment as of now as to how much of the Aravallis is actually gone. I mean, we just know in 2018 that Supreme Court studied a certain number of hills, 200 plus in Alwar, and said that 25% of those hills have vanished. But how much is that number for the entire Aravalli range? Nobody knows. And we are talking about opening up the entire range for more mining. Next, please. So speakers before me have already pointed this out, that 90% of the Aravallis will go, most of the Aravalli hills in Gujarat and Haryana are very low-lying hills. I'm not going to go into detail into this. Next, please. So this is what we stand to lose. There are still very beautiful areas in the Aravallis. The one that you see in the middle is something that we've been trying to save for the last 15 years. This is the Girjan River in Sikar district. And all around it, Sota River, Katli River, Kasavati River have been dried up and or polluted or reduced to polluted nalas. This is the only river that actually flows for 19 kilometers. It originates in the Baleshwar conservation area, and it comes to a place called Buchara Dam. And we are desperately trying to save this area. It's 60,000 farmers are dependent on this for their sustenance. There's a lot of biodiversity here. Next, please. So everybody knows a lot of agitation, and the Supreme Court rolled back their put a stay, actually not rolled back, on the 100-meter definition. Next, please. So I'm just going to talk a little about the legal interventions that we've made. So when the Supreme Court put a stay on their order, people for Aravallis, along with the rural people who we are working with, actually put legal interventions in this suo motu order. Next, please. So what we have essentially said, everything that I've shown in this presentation so far, we have put these GIS maps, these GIS images, reports, everything into our petition, which is 600 plus pages, and given that to the Supreme Court. And essentially what we are asking for is a macro level environment and social impact assessment of the entire range. And until that happens, no further mining should be actually allowed. And we're actually asking the court to look at adopting the Western Ghats model, where the Western Ghats haven't really been defined, but they took the taluka kind of approach to protecting the Western Ghats. Then we're actually asking that all of the mining that's happening, that you actually assess that how much of it is illegal and close down all of those mines. Next, please. Then we're asking for liability to be fixed, not just on the mine owners, but also on the government officials who are allowing this kind of mining to happen on the basis of polluter pays principle. A very big ask from our side is that without community consultation, without consulting with the communities who are living in the lap of the Aravallis, who are most impacted by its destruction, no plans for the Aravallis should actually be made. And then we're actually asking that whatever is left of the range, that please declare it as an ecologically sensitive area, like how the Western Ghats have been declared. Next, please. So this is an intervention application that has been filed by Kailash Meena, who is one of our core teammates, and some other villagers. You can see him right in the beginning. He's a person who has spent the last 30 years battling with the mining mafia in North Rajasthan. Now, the rural communities are essentially, this petition has brought out the social impacts of mining, the health costs, the livelihood damage that I've already talked about. And they are again asking for a comprehensive health assessment, because silicosis does not just affect the mine workers, it also affects the people who are living in the Aravalli region. They have their farms there, they are living there, and so they get silicosis because one fine day the government just decides that there's going to be a mine that is going to start over here. And again, accountability, and then actually verify employment records, because a lot of the labor that is brought, the government talks about that it's giving employment. A lot of the labor that is actually brought is from outside. It's not from the mining affected villages. Now the people know enough to know that they are not supposed to work in these areas. Next, please. So I don't know how much people know about this. I think I have hugely crossed my time, but a lot of things were brought out in the amicus report. with respect to the Forest Survey of India report was completely suppressed in, the 2000-page Ministry of Environment's report that the first speaker spoke about. And there was no public consultation and all of that. Next, please. So I want to really bring out here, this was something that I was personally very, very upset about, that the Forest Survey of India talks about 63 Aravalli districts, whereas the Ministry of Environment report to the Supreme Court talks about just 37 Aravalli districts. So, so when we are talking about mapping and damage assessment, it needs to actually be done, across the range and, looking at the FSI definition. And very major prominent Aravalli districts like Chittorgarh, like Savai Madhopur were actually omitted from the Ministry of Environment's definition of the Aravallis. Next, please. So I will just end my presentation saying that a few sangatans across the range came together to form the Aravalli Virasat Jan Abhiyan after the 20th of November 2025 Supreme Court order. And under that, we carried out this Aravalli Sanrakshan Yatra, which was for 38 days, over 700 kilometers. The idea was to meet the very, very remote rural communities who nobody goes to, who are living in the lap of the Aravallis, and to engage with them and dialogue with them as to what do they think about Aravalli protection, what is it that they want, and bring their voices to Delhi. So these are just some images from the Yatra. We traveled to more than 37 Aravalli districts, the prominent Aravalli districts. Next, please. So these are just some images from across the Yatra. We met like more than 1,500 people. And next, please. So I want to, these are our main demands that, we obviously want this regressive definition completely scrapped. And, we want the entire range declared as a critical ecological zone, because it is really bleeding and it now needs restoration. And we cannot bring back the hills that we have already razed to the ground, but, we can at least try to restore the areas so that, the forests come back. And we need destructive activities absolutely halted near human habitation areas, near agricultural fields, near forests, near water bodies. If you have to mine, you have to mine in a certain area, or you want to set up stone crushing units, make an industrial area. You can't do it right next to people's homes. That's completely unacceptable. And then a very big ask from the government is that you mainstream alternative building materials. You cannot finish off the oldest mountain range in the country to make buildings and roads. Nowhere in the world is this happening. So that is something that the government really, really needs to look at. There have, just on a very positive note, talking about this definition issue, we actually, next slide, please. We very recently, next slide, please. So I just want to end my presentation here, talking about the Girjan River. The Supreme Court very interestingly said that in May 2024 that the Aravallis, according to the 2010 definition, 3-degree slope, and no new mining leases should be given in the Aravalli range. And then there was final forest clearance given to a 180 hectares of iron ore mining project right at the mouth of this river. So we went to the Supreme Court earlier this year, and they had started clearing the land and all of that on the hill. And the mining officer, who had earlier said that this is not Aravalli land, actually then agreed that, yeah, this is Aravalli land, and we were able to stop that. So this has been a huge victory for the people. And we were able to send Sariska National Park was denotified last year. So we challenged that in the Supreme Court, and the same judge actually who passed the 100-meter definition, it was just so unacceptable. had earlier ruled that the Sariska, it needs to like go back and, public hearing needs to happen. And so that process is happening right now. And I'm not going to go into detail with the Aravalli Zoo Safari Park in Haryana, because I have one of our co-petitioners here, Tripathi Srivastav, who will talk about that in detail. But we challenged that in the Supreme Court last year as well. And we've got an interim stay order on that. So everything is not like so bad, but of course, like, there's a lot of fight that people have to put up with. And I wish we didn't have to do that. So anyways, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We've really run out of time. So thank you very much. Now I'll ask, before I ask P.K. Tripathi ji to come in, I'll ask Prakriti Srivastava to take the floor. But please limit yourself to 8 to 10 minutes. Yeah, because we've really short out of time now.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'll try to keep it very short and speak of the issues that have not been spoken before, and something that I feel that is new to the discussion. So basically, I'm going to talk about two parts of it. One is I'm looking at the whole issue of how this Supreme Court order is playing out, what is the background, and what is going to happen next. So, and then I'll speak about that zoo safari that was being planned in the Aravallis also. So the first part of it is that you see this whole thing about this 100-meter definition which has come about, and people are talking about it. It's actually an outcome of trying to get a uniform definition for whole of Aravallis for mining. So that is the whole basis of this issue. And let me also say that it is not something that is new. In fact, while in 1992 itself, the Supreme Court had started taking, decisions that Aravallis need to be protected, and they extended it to in 2000 to the whole of the Aravalli range. But what happened in 2000 itself, Rajasthan approached the Supreme Court and got it modified for their state, and that 100-meter definition actually is in implementation in Rajasthan from 2002 itself. So it is only now that this in 2025, what has happened is that it has become universally accepted. But in Rajasthan, it was already there. That 100-meter definition was already there, and mining was being done according to that. Now, just to give the next part of it is that in 2002 itself, in the MC Mehta case, the Supreme Court said that all areas which were using EU funds, that is European Union funds, and afforestation was done, that will all be considered to be forests and you cannot do mining there. But those areas have not been demarcated, they have not been identified. So they are again still open for mining. At any point of time when it is decided, it can again be mined. So that is the background of it. Now, what has happened is that actually in 2010, which is another landmark point, that the FSI at that point said that, look, we have to look at the definition of Aravallis, taking 3-degree slope as the criterion, and then decide about what is the Aravalli range. But in that time also, they did not take any ecological parameter. Now, this is a completely geological thing. It is a slope is a physical parameter. And therefore, are you saying that all the areas which are plains, which connect wildlife corridors, which are habitats for wildlife, for forests, etc., they are not going to be Aravallis, or they are not to be protected? What's going to be happening to the wildlife? Is it going to jump from a 3-degree slope to the next 3-degree slope? What happens in between? What happens to the troughs? There are troughs also in Aravallis. So this is a completely, strange sort of a definition that has come about. And besides that, it is to be remembered that it is the Forest Survey of India. It is not the Geological Survey of India. So Forest Survey of India should take into account the biological and the ecological factors and not just the geological factors. So that is, I think, a basic hit that takes place to the FSI definition of 2010 itself. However, now in 2024, the Rajasthan mines came up for renewal. So at that point of time, the Supreme Court took a decision that let us have some sort of a uniform definition. And at that point, they set up a special bench and constituted something called the expert committee, which we'll call as the Aravalli Expert Committee. And this was in 2024. And after the Aravalli Expert Committee was set up, it had members basically led by the Secretary MOAF, as well as the secretaries of the 4 states where the Aravallis are. And they also had the member of the FSI, the Geological Survey of India, and and as well as a member of the Central Empowered Committee. So they were the ones who decided. And let me again say that the FSI, the director, they constituted something called a technical subcommittee. This Aravalli Expert Committee constituted the technical expert committee, which was supposed to give them technical advice as to how to decide what are Aravallis. And the best part is that they all gave a unified report, agreeing to a 100-meter definition. And now please understand that this technical subcommittee was led by the director FSI, who was holding on to the 2010 definition, saying that it should be a 3-degree slope that needs to be taken into account. Now, just prior to the submission of the report, which was done on 11/10/25 by the TSC, 2 times the director has opposed it and said that we should not look at this definition. It will remove a lot of areas out of the definition of Aravalli. But very nicely, on 13th October 25, he has recommended, yes, we will go ahead with this 100-meter definition, and everyone has agreed to it. Now that is what, now when everyone says that he gave such a nice report in March 26, saying that we should have the 3-degree definition and we are against what has happened. But then what was happening at that point of time? Amnesia? Why was it that he could not have said that I disagree with it? So it is all, I don't know how to classify it or qualify it, but this is it, that how can you give different reports at different times? And the other thing is, as I said, that this 3-degree slope doesn't take into account any ecological parameter. So how are you going to actually go about identifying the Aravallis properly, and what is the need to identify? The need to identify is very simple, which they have said that there are minerals in it. And in the Aravalli ranges, there are zinc, tungsten, molybdenum, gold, and it is classified as strategic relevance for energy transition and for national security. Now we can do anything in the name of national security, including the Midas touch, that you turn everything to gold, but you have no air to breathe finally. So that is our situation right now. Now let me come to this report, that is the Aravalli Expert Committee report, which was submitted, and that made some very strange observations. They said that we need not be so concerned about Aravallis and its protection like we are about the Himalayas and the Western Ghats, because in Aravallis, human settlements have coexisted with the Aravallis for centuries together. Now, please tell me, large-scale mining and human coexistence, how do you qualify these are the same? And that's my question, that how does an expert committee like this make such a recommendation? What are we to believe? That was your, was it that you had to recommend mining and that is why you did this? Or was it that you were actually looking at protection? That was your mandate. So that is the other point that is there. In that whole report, they talk in detail about the minerals and national security requirement, etc. And there is just one small para which they talk about ecological importance. They say it is very important to keep the ecology intact, and therefore, please, we will ensure that there will be go and no-go areas. But how are you going to do it? You have not spoken about it at all. You have not even paid lip service to it. So that is again the expert committee report which is there. Then they say that the Central Empowered Committee member agreed to it and said that, and they are all documented how they have done it by emails. They have agreed to it, and therefore everyone was on board about this 100-meter definition to be pushed through. So at that point, the CEC, then the CEC other members say, no, we didn't agree. We were, this person has given his individual, his agreement in his individual capacity. Now, please tell me, any government servant can give a report or give a opinion as in their personal capacity, and it is accepted. And this is what, again, it comes to what the amicus says in his report to the Supreme Court. Now, in February 26, he gives this report and says it was an unsigned, undated report. Now, when it has come with an affidavit of the Ministry of Environment and Forest, please believe me, it is absolutely official and legitimate. And therefore, whether the report was signed or not signed is immaterial. And the fact is that all the members have agreed to it. And the CEC member that I was talking about probably is being scapegoated, and he is being made to say that only he gave his report and it was not the report of everyone. So that is where we are coming from. And the amicus also says this in his report, saying that the ministry misunderstood what were the mandate given by the Supreme Court. That mandate was by the Supreme Court that you should look at the ecological importance, you should look at the conservation of Aravallis. But they misunderstood it as mining. Now, my next question is that if that be the case, then there are 3 points which I ask. That when such a report came, which was before the Supreme Court, which was against its own mandate, why did it consider it? Point number 1. If it was an unsigned and an undated report, why did it consider it? Now, if it was something that was only looking at mining, why did the Supreme Court consider it? It not just considered it, it also passed an order agreeing to it. And after agreeing to it, it also said, it went a step further. It says, now let us make a management plan for sustainable mining. Like we have done for Saranda, like that we will do for Aravalli also. Okay, so that is what has happened. And finally, when this came out, this order, this shocking order came out, there was hue and cry, such agitation. And because of that, the Supreme Court decided to pull back this particular order. But you see, this is the whole background of it. Each one's, culpability in actually ensuring that this report went through and the Supreme Court accepting it. Now it's all bare. Now, whatever they may say that I didn't say this, I said that, I was actually against it. Why did you all agree in that technical subcommittee report? Why did you agree in the other report? We as government servants have always got the authority to give our dissent note. And we say that if we don't agree to something, we give our dissent note. But here, everything is in agreement. It is coming as an affidavit. Anyway, that is the last part of it. Now, let us look what happened after that. Now, what has happened after that is that the Supreme Court said in December that we pull back this particular judgment and we are going to look at it afresh. Now, when they look at it afresh, first of all, the amicus submits his report, which you can see, blames ministry and says that there is no culpability on part of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court was misled, but I told you exactly what has happened. After that, what happens is that now they are in the process of they have appointed a new committee in March 2026. But you know what? It is the same CEC which was so, whatever has happened, it is the same CEC which has proposed the names. And the same ministry which, according to the amicus and everyone, was so culpable and was trying to actually give a misleading report, has approved the names. And the Supreme Court has accepted it. Please believe me, please think about it. Where is it going? Do we expect something good to come out of it? Please think about it. The second part is, this whole committee does not have a wildlife expert. Now, that is very important. Your habitats, etc., are basically for wildlife and biodiversity. You don't have a wildlife expert in that committee. Besides that, there is no GIS expert in it. The committee is led by somebody who is already in a controversial issue of the Green Credit Program. The Green Credit Program is already so challenged and already challenged in the Supreme Court. One of the petitioners is myself also. We have done a contempt case. So can you think of what is going to be the report which is going to come out? Nobody speaks about all this. So looking at it, do you think that we will get a good order? And that's why I thought it is important to come here and say that it's not okay the way things are going. We don't accept this. We do not accept another iteration of what has happened with some small, concessions made for conservation. So that is what I wanted to bring to your attention also. And then also, I wanted to, this part of it, I wanted to end by saying that we talk about illegal mining and other things, but how is it that all authorities who are supposed to protect are the ones who are actually proposing and abetting destruction? Okay, so when someone commented that we should not give it to the mining department ministry, it should stay with the environment, I think they're the same, so it doesn't really matter. You give it here or there. So that is what I wanted to say. And let me speak the last part of it and I'll finish it. That you see that there is one Aravalli Zoo Park, which again we challenged in the court, and it was actually heard by the Supreme Court, handed over to the CEC. Thankfully, it has been stayed for the time being. How long it will be, we don't know, but at least we stayed what that part stayed. Madam Neelam is a co-petitioner along with me. We had to fight it out, and we had to show that it was completely illegal. But despite that, the CEC made a recommendation to the Supreme Court saying that this particular Aravalli Zoo, whatever the Haryana government has submitted is not good and not correct. But let them give us a revised proposal. We will consider it and give it to the Central Zoo Authority. That's not their mandate. And I heard the proceedings in the Supreme Court. The ASG was literally, badgering the Supreme Court to give such an order. Luckily, that order did not come through. But it is so linked to Aravallis, and that's how also I've got involved with this particular issue. And that's the next thing, that do we believe that zoos are the way forward? And do we believe that instead of restoring Aravallis, we'll put a zoo? And they're saying that this is our way of forest conservation. And I keep thinking that I'm also a trained forester. They are also trained foresters. Why is it that I don't believe that zoos are the way of forest conservation? And the fact that you're going to build up this whole area, there's not going to be any percolation of water, nothing's going to happen. How much land you're going to disturb and change? What's going to happen? But this is what everywhere is happening. They want zoos. They want safari
Thank
parks.
you. Thank you, ma'am. We are
Thank
really running out of time
Yes.
now. Sorry. Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll now go to the last speaker, Shri P.K. Tripathi, please.
Thank you, Suhas and Green Circle, for arranging this discussion today. It has been a very, very educative experience, even for me. Though I thought that I know a lot, but it has been. What we have realized today is that we cannot sit alone thinking that the government will take care of the problem or the courts will take care of the problem. The only way out is that awareness. Community has to be aware about the problem, which has happened today, all the presentations that have been made. The impact of the destruction of Aravallis has been very, very clearly brought out. I was wondering, when I was listening to everybody, how have the Aravallis survived for 3 billion years? And from my personal experience, only 2 incidents very shortly, I know time is running out. I was once traveling in Gujarat on an official visit, and the driver, we were passing through a forest, and the driver said, "Sir, do you know that the Pandavas came here during their sojourn?" No, I was not aware that they traveled all the way to Gujarat also. And he said, you know what happened? They stayed for 3 months. Then the forest god appeared before them and said, "We are very grateful that you came here and we are very happy that you chose our forest. But now please move on. Don't overstay." So the message that forests have a carrying capacity, land has a carrying capacity, was understood. And here was a person who was not even literate, and he was narrating this incident, and he was understanding and telling me that even forests have a limited carrying capacity. You cannot exploit things. Even gods and people who are very, very important, they should also learn to conserve things and move on. The second point, which I was deriving from my experience, and I belong to a small village. See, earlier, the community was totally dependent upon the local ecosystem. See, you need fuel. There was no kerosene had just been introduced, and it was not easy to get kerosene. So people were cooking food on fuel provided by the local area, which needed forest. You need trees. And you don't have to cut trees, because if you cut the trees, then you will not get fuel. So you have to use very judicious manner, the trees to give you fuel. Food naturally comes from there, and even fun came from, the pond. What was in the local village? You don't have stadiums and other things. So ponds were very, very important, where you go for a swim, where not only you go for a swim, but your cattle also goes for a swim. And without cattle, there is no milk then. So the dependence on nature was very, very close. And then our history and culture also makes all these things very sacred. Sacred verses, we've heard talk, woods were sacred, ponds were sacred, nature was sacred. And even without the government's intervention, things were working properly. I myself seen that before the Forest Act was passed and cutting of trees was banned, trees were protected. I have seen it that nobody was cutting trees because of religious sanctions and because of the local need. They realized that if they cut the trees, then they will have no life. But after the promulgation of the Act, now it is, instead of sacred, has become economic. Now nobody minds cutting trees. In fact, the Forest Department, lower level, and the police, they instigate people to cut trees. Because once they cut trees, then they get a cut for cutting trees. So there's a total now, the sacred part has gone and the economic part has come in, and everybody, there's like a game. If you, because I wanted permission, I wanted to cut a tree, they said, no, that is a very long procedure. Even as an officer, you will find it very difficult. But it can all be done here. You have to just manage the local SHO and then so it has become like a game. The sacredness of the forest and the trees has vanished. It has just become like economic proposition. If I can make some money, I will cut the trees. I know we are running out of time. So therefore, the need of the hour is, and that is why I thank Suhas for having this meeting, is unless until we understand the criticality of preserving nature, things we can't really depend only on courts and law. But as Professor Babu has also proven, that where the community and the government come together, it is possible to do a great thing. The biodiversity park which has been developed here is a wonderful example where the community prevailed upon the government, and the government then took expert advice and created something which is an example of what can be replicated. Of course, I agree with Neelam ji that forest and hills are two different things. You can recreate a forest, but you cannot recreate a hill. So therefore, that being there, and she has also shown a number of studies have shown that wherever people have, as a community, come together, they have been able to withstand the will of the government, because government is also amorphous. Government is not, because all of us have been in government. You can't have a more interested person in forestry than Ashok ji, and he was Minister, Secretary Environment Forest. So there are very committed people in the government also, as we have seen our PCCF from Kerala. So there are committed, but unless until there is community support in a democratic society, it is not possible to go forward. So I again thank Suhas ji for arranging this. I think we will all have to spread this message, because I have also, even though I knew that I thought I knew, but the way it has been presented and the way now I understand the problem is much deeper than I had done before I came for the meeting. Thank you.
Just a few minutes left. Actually, we have overshot. We have overshot totally. Everybody had been told 15 minutes, so somehow, you can't curb enthusiasm and passion. you know. So anyway, so now there's Dr. Chattopadhyay. She wanted to just 2 minutes. We'll have another session where we can have a longer thing with just 2 minutes.
Just mentioned, I am the maker of that report. I am Shalagna Chattopadhyay. That report on Aravalli is actually ours. It's a 5-member committee report that we did with 10 recommendations. One of the recommendations on that was about MOEFMCC, basically environment se leke GSI mein dalne ke liye. That was a recommendation, and I think you said that that was not such a great idea. But discussion today, if you saw, there is a huge disconnect because mining is the mudda. Mining agar aapka mudda hai, why are we not talking about mining? You put the ball in the court where it should be. Because why are you expecting that Ministry of Environment, Tourism by her submission and lovely presentation? I don't think we are able to trust anyone right now. But kaanta se kaanta uthta hai. So basically, if you put it in the thing of mining, then the responsibility will be more. And GSI is competent to make every single, no, see, I'll tell you, there is a lot of problems in the FSI way. It has to be the process of understanding aquifer or water or catchment has to be done in a mapping by the GSI. It is a process. We cannot deny the process. Mining, we are very conveniently saying, you know, there is dust here and there is blasting there and there is this and that. But I want to ask, how many of us don't have patthar ghar pe or has not used sand or has not used stone chips? How many of us have not used anything from the Aravalli? We are all participating in that mining. So it's very easy to say they are mining, we are not doing anything. We are also doing the same thing by using it. Only GSI can make the difference between two things. One is what mining is for minerals and what mining is for building materials. Do you know that they have already a category for building materials and for other mines like copper, etc., in the Aravalli? They already have it, but it's not mapped. If we map it and if we find out what is actually used for structure, for building material, and then replace that and say that these are the ones we can do away with, and then keep the development ones which we need for development, which we need copper. We all have these phones, we have rare earths, we need all these things. We can't say we don't need it. That is sustainability. That is sustainable mining. So it is not easy to dismiss everything. It is important to understand what our needs are and then take it from there. So this recommendation is about that, about what GSI can do. So I will forward the link to you. You can have a look at all the recommendations we've made, and they are very significant ones because geologists have come, environmentalists come, and I am a great fan of CR Babu Saab. But tell me the difference between a biodiversity park and a zoo. Please tell me the difference between a biodiversity park and a zoo. You are saving something in a microcosm. Why? Because how does it happen? How does it? You have to save across. Fragmentation doesn't save anything. You can't fragment and save. So you have, so you save something, but that's the end. How do you take it forward? So fragmentation has to be avoided. For that, again, GSI. It will tell us where mining to be done and where the entire belt, because mining is along belts. These are mineral belts. We can avoid those areas and protect the other areas. It can be done. You just have to open an alternative. You can't only look unidirectional. You have to look 360 degrees.
Thank you. Yeah. So we have to, you know, I mean, the idea was that we have about.
Sir, I've come from Bombay.
Sorry?
I've come from Bombay and I'm a wildlife biologist. There are some things I would like to add. If you just give me a minute or two. Sure. Yeah. So one thing is that we fought.
Just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Anand Pendarkar. I'm a wildlife biologist and ecologist. And we fought the RA forest for 12 years and managed, you know, again, the definition of what is victory and failure. If a doctor allows a patient to survive for 12 more years, did the doctor fail or did the doctor survive? You know, or succeed. Similarly, the fight for any conservation is not a ultimate victory or failure. It's a sliding scale, like we saw in Sariska. tigers went away, they came back, now they are de-notifying it. So, these things are, conservation is a changing scale, sliding scale. But what is happening is that when we're talking of conservation, we're talking of trees, which, because in the definition we can replant trees, that becomes easily adjustable here or there. But when we are talking of species, again, when we take the top canopy, rather the tigers and the leopards and those kind of things, we forget 9-10 stories of creatures which are down below over there. And that's where the real biodiversity lies. Even in trees contribute only 10% to forest diversity. 90% is shrubs, climbers, herbs, grasses. There is no word of that. If you see any forestry, if you see Champion and Say it talks about a forest type, but then all these things are there in the definition. They are not mentioned anywhere. I was the amicus curiae to the RA matter, and we documented 1,150 species in RA complex with photographs, with things like that. So now nobody is talking about the leech snake, like snake species, spider species, scorpion species, solifuges, which are found either in the desert or in the Aravalli. They are found nowhere else in the world. 15 bat species are found in this area. Entire United Kingdom has 15 bat species, and Delhi has 15 bat species. And the recent most discovery, the Automops rotteni, the rotten free-tailed bat, is known from 4 other places in the country, all South India, and Cambodia, Vietnam, Lagos. So if we have these kind of species which are there, which is critically endangered in the IUCN, it's in the scheduled one. Wolf has now been recently cited near Delhi. It's being discussed whether that is not there. These are scheduled species. We need to really strengthen. We are not talking of spiders. We're not talking of scorpions. We're not talking of snakes. We're not frog species. There are geckos which are found only in this Aravalli area, and there is no documentation or mention. I've surveyed in Jambhwa Ramgarh Sanctuary, Sita Mata Sanctuary, Fulwari Kinnar, entire from Gujarat to Haryana. I've surveyed these areas in forest, and we see, when we see the reports, these are Boswellia serrata is present right from Ranthambore till all the way. So you don't have a point of argument then, because these are landscape species. Anogenesis or pendula is like across huge landscapes. So that is, we're making our case very weak. We need to really go down to the nitty-gritties of micro species, porcupines, bats, talk about species which are like flying squirrel. There's probably an extinct flying squirrel. There is a subspecies which is extinct and could be present in Sita Mata and Fulwari Kinnar. Lion is going to be probably considered to be re-established in one of these areas. So again, as potential conservation, when we talk of sustainability, we talk of futurity. So if another place which was also in the Aravalli has been given to the cheetahs, there are 5 other places in the Aravallis which are being considered for lion conservation. So point is that I'm saying, let's only talk at the 10th floor. You cannot protect the 10th floor of biodiversity without talking of the ground floors, without the grasses, so that's my sort of request. And we are very happy to help with the documentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, just 2 minutes, okay?
I'll stick to it. My name is Ramit Basu. I've been working in the field of local government and decentralized planning, basically Panchayati Raj. And my question, of course, to Neelam ji as well as to Prakriti ji is that, in this entire struggle wherein we have been talking about communities and all the presentations, I've been really striving to see if somebody would have mentioned that, panchayats being institution of local government at the rural level, they have got certain powers that have been given by state governments under the state Panchayati Raj laws, and out of the 29 subjects, 10 subjects pertain to them. Because Prakriti ji has worked in Kerala, and Kerala has had a wonderful history wherein local governments have been strengthened, and they have taken steps in conservation of environment. They have even taken steps of petitioning courts, like in Karnataka, in Sikkim, in states where they have gone ahead, used their offices as statutory bodies and as petition courts to stop certain illegal activities. Why are we not considering it across this entire belt of Aravallis, from Haryana, from Rajasthan? Haryana has the Shamlat land. We have been talking about commons. You very rightly pointed out, it's not just forests, it is mountains. Mountain means the huge common lands. Now in Rajasthan, the law specifically says that commons have been handed over to panchayats. If we look at the southern Rajasthan belt, there are Gramdan villages where Gram Sabhas have been given exclusive powers. Why are we not bringing in these institutions of local government in fighting these cases? I think there could be a lot of mobilization in doing that. That's number one. Number two is the biodiversity management committees, which are responsible for creating the PBR, the People Biodiversity Registers, documenting the entire flora and fauna. As you've rightly said, the entire thing. Can these villages have very active, vibrant PBRs, which can be used in the court of law, saying that, look, this is what the biodiversity is in this area, and we cannot, afford to lose it. Why are we not, and if it has been used, I haven't seen it in the presentation, so forgive me for the negligence. So these are the 2 points which I wanted to add. Thank you.
What, half a minute? So, not really. I'm Vijay Rashmana, and I think the point that I want to make is ecological security is national security. So unless we look at ecological security, I think we will be losing ground to so-called economic development, which of course you can outsource. Ecological security you cannot. So I think, and the larger good, somewhere some wisdom has to prevail, where we have to look at ecological security, rivers that we are flowing from the Aravallis.
I would add to what Vijay said, that ecology does not include just plant. Ecology includes the geology, everything which is part. The biotic and the abiotic is part of ecology. And when we talk about biodiversity, it is not all what is above ground. The biodiversity below the ground. We don't even talk about that biodiversity. So when we talk about ecology and ecosystem, it is the whole, and we can't just put it into the pieces like forest.
I think, Yogita, we'll have to carry this over to another day, because it,
So just a half a minute.
just
My
the
name
last-
is Madhu Verma. I'm an ecological economist. I am a chief economist. I've worked with Ministry of Environment and Forest all my life. I worked in Kerala as well in many I work for tiger reserves mainly in conservation, and demonstrate the value of conservation of habitats of predator species, many such species. So this is very important to also bring in economics when you talk about ecology. It's an eclectic area. It's not just one particular area or domain will give the answer. You have to combine together many more things. I work with lots of people. You talked about all kinds of experts, and really provide the solution. We try to kind of have two paradigms together. We talk about value of conservation. We must also talk about cost of degradation. Put them together, then compare and weigh. That's how you should inform. And I have been part of many such reports of the government, and trying to put it all kinds of these efforts into the system, and also engage everybody from the very beginning when you try to make an intervention. So everybody becomes a party to it and come out with a holistic solution. I think that's what is needed here. Everybody is talking about rightly in their own domain. So unless you collude together, strengthen your argument. I am aware of what is happening all across, and definitely it requires kind of very holistic and togetherness approach to give an answer. Thank you.
The problem is that everybody is not being taken on board. That's the main
That's what
problem.
I'm saying. That's what
Yeah,
I'm trying
anyway,
to tell.
so thank you very much. It's been
Sir,
a
half
long
minute.
haul.
Sir, half minute for me.
No, I
Half
think
a minute.
what you're going to say has already been said.
No.
No? Are you
No,
sure?
Yeah. Very
Okay.
Sure. There is a case going on in Vasant Kunj, B1. I think a lot of people are aware of it. It's why it's very serious. We are fighting this case and against a builder who is actually sometimes block the entire block. All the gates, people can't come out because bullying. The issue is the CEC report. CEC has said that though this area is under morphological range, but is surrounded by the establishments, so it can be developed. Now, this is a very dangerous definition. In one of the articles in print, I have written this. It's a recipe for disaster for the entire Delhi, because in Delhi,
identify yourself, please. Okay.
My name is Dr. Narmadeshwar Prasad, and this we are fighting this case, and I need support from people who are activists here who are dealing with Supreme Court. The case is Supreme Court, but it's almost we are losing it because CEC has defined that if area is surrounded by establishment, I'm sorry to say the entire Delhi Ridge is surrounded by some establishment, and by that definition, builders will take that plea, a CEC report. So I need help from you, whatever way. Please do something about it.
Thank you. I think we have another session, later to follow up. But I hope who are keen to come for that 19th have signed up. The 19th, that sheet which was circulated, 19th of yeah. Okay. Now I'll just a line from me, and then we close. Okay. I think the entire evening we have discussed the criticality of the issue, and I feel protecting Aravalli now is critical for the survival. I mean, we have come to that point, survival of Delhi NCR. I mean, if we are to look at Delhi NCR itself, right across the range, if you think from Gujarat to Delhi, it's all there. But Delhi's survival is, I mean, look at the air quality, look at the water scarcity, look at the climate changes which are taking. So that criticality has to be, put on the foreground. So thank you all. Thank you very much.
What will be the meeting point for 19?
8 o'clock. Just wait, take a.